guys, this is Patrick Sessoms with Due South Outfitters, Fly Shop and Guide Service of Boone, North Carolina. Today on The Educated Angler, I wanted to take a minute to teach you guys a couple guide tricks that we use to help you nymph. And we're talking about suspension style nymphing here, not Euro nymphing. These tips and tricks have made nymphing much easier for us in the field, and we feel like it'll help you guys out to catch more fish and in return have a more enjoyable experience on the water. So what I want to talk about is in essence, the penetration rate of your leader as you're nymphing and trying to fish subsurface. So let me grab a whiteboard here and I'll walk you through what I'm talking about, guys. So say you were to buy a conventional style tapered leader, right? The taper is going to look a little bit like this. Going to have a big, fat, long butt section, a little bit of tippet. We're going to say it's 9 feet long. So maybe we have 7 feet of a fat taper and then 2 feet of thin, more or less tippet. One thing here that's going to happen, guys, is you're going to get a slower sink rate due to this thick butt section. You know, just simple aquadynamics. The thinner the diameter of your leader and your tippet, the faster it'll cut through the water. And I hear from a lot of anglers that, you know, well, I'm nymphing, but I can't get down fast enough. This trick I'm going to show you will help you get down faster, guys. So what we're going to do, we're going to try to eliminate this fat butt section and fish more tippet or thin diameter stuff. We'll say this is 5X, and less of this thick diameter butt section. So here's how I do it, y'all. I'm going to start out with, we'll say a 7.5 foot, we'll just go the 4X leader, right? Regular, basic tapered leader. With this leader, it might look a little something like this in regards to the taper profile. So we've got, once again, similar to this, our thick butt section. We're going to work in easy numbers here, guys. We'll say we've got 5 feet of thick taper, and then we're going to go 2.5 feet of tippet on the end. What I like to do is I'm going to cut this tapered section off in the butt right here. So I'm going to go from 5 feet down to maybe 2 feet. Now, after I do that, I'm going to come down here and regain that 3 feet of tippet on the end here. So now I've got my original 2.5 feet of tippet plus 3 feet. So I've got roughly 5.5 feet of tippet, only 2 feet of butt section. In return, if my strike indicator is here, this 5.5 feet is going to sink a lot faster in the water column for us. A lot of folks like to tie on a loop at the end of their leader here. You know, you could use the Perfection loop. That works great. I fish loop to loop. Fly lines, or you know, my fly line's got a welded loop on the end. What I do a lot of times, y'all, it's just really simple. Put an improved clinch knot here onto my welded loop. Sure, it's not great for the longevity of your fly line, but it slides through the guides a lot faster. You could also nail knot it. But in essence, the deal here, guys, we're going to cut through the water a lot faster. We're going to lose this fat butt section of our leader, and in return, penetrate the water faster, hopefully get to the fish quicker. One thing to note, guys, and I'm sure some of you guys are going to comment, well, does the leader roll out well? To answer the question, it does. You know, I think there's a gross overstatement of butt section on most modern manufactured leaders. You know, they're super thick, which, I mean, that's great if you're turning over heavy streamers, super heavy split shot, etc. Most of the nymphing I'm doing, guys, I'm using tungsten bugs. You know, I'm relatively light nymphing. I'm not throwing, you know, 5 BBs or anything like that. So needless to say, with a nice high line speed, that 2 foot section of the butt end is plenty to roll out what we're working with. I think, once again, there is a gross overstatement of butt end on leaders. I focus more on the tippet side of things and the thin end of the leader rather than the upper end. And in return, this method is going to get rid of what you don't need and keep just what you do need, making for a more pleasurable, more fulfilling fishing experience. And y'all, I wanted to mention that if you didn't want to take the time to tie these knots, etc., Rio has a great product out there called the indicator leader. It's not meant for Euro nymphing. Instead, it's got this type of taper profile I'm speaking of, short buck section that's pretty powerful, down to a much longer piece of tippet. So if you're not into tying knots, you want a really easy, out-of-the-box way to fish a leader like this, grab a Rio indicator leader at your local fly shop, and it'll get basically the job done that I'm talking about. I'm referring to how to build your own in regards to the whiteboard here, but yeah, so if you don't want to do that, grab an indicator leader by Rio, and that'll help you out. One other thing I was going to mention, at the knot, I'm typically using a double surgeon's knot to put my tippet on. On this style leader, inherently you're going to save that bud section for a while. Feel free at that tippet connection to put a small tippet ring, and in return you can use that bud section over and over and over instead of clipping your tippet and then getting up to a knot and having to redo the knot. You can just use a tippet ring, much easier, much more streamlined. And I found this tippet rings to really not make any difference one way or the other than just ease of use for the angler. So hopefully this helps, guys. Till next time, tight lines.